This is Atomic Shinobi and today I'm going to narrate what if Naruto became an immortal and waited for Hinata to reborn. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
Naruto's perspective, though it's not like the bastard lived much longer after that. I have lived for many centuries and have witnessed Madara Uchiha take my wife and mate, my beloved Hinata, from me. However, my grief has transformed me into the new Kyuubi no Kitsune since my beloved Hinata, the person who truly made me happy, passed away. And I can see how Sasuke Teme would have turned out now that everyone I cared about is dead. Unrestricted power without any family or friends to share it with is incredibly disheartening. A few decades later, things started to change. Arceus transformed Kami into something new, and I think this shift qualifies as evolution. The world's population did not evolve due to their way of thinking. They acquired new technologies, but they haven't changed as individuals. On the other hand, it is fascinating to observe the creatures of this world. They evolved over time, acquiring new skills and physical characteristics that make me question whether they've always had this power or if I acquired it by sheer willpower and necessity. I have combined my demonic chakra with the world's foxes to help them evolve into Vulpix and Ninetales because these new creatures, which Arceus refers to as Pokemon, are genuinely amazing creatures. Arceus informs me that I am, in fact, a legendary, all-powerful Ninetales. But why should I care? That won't bring my friends back, and it won't bring my dear Hinata back either. I observe from a distance as Pokemon and humans start cooperating as partners. Nevertheless, some people appear to have a Uchiha complex for some reason, believing that they are better than Pokemon. If they gave it some thought, they would realize what I realized before I changed into the new Kyuubi. There is no such thing as being better than someone or something else. Some people have spread this evil mindset by forming organizations like Team Rocket. They will be entertaining to torture. Dang, I'm starting to sound like the old fox. However, that was several thousand years ago. Arceus is visiting me today. Having suffered for too long was something she told me. Could she really bring my beloved back to me? Inside Naruto's house, deep underground, Naruto was hurrying about his den, attempting to tidy it up a little. He was expecting some sort of good news from Arceus today. When a rift began to form by the wall of the living room, he did his best to get the den together. A stunning woman emerged as it opened, dressed in a knee-length white kimono with a half-circle obi on top and bottom. She wore a jeweled tiara on her head and had white hair that hung down to her ankles. Naruto gave her a respectful glance and bowed. Arceus Sama, it's an honor to have you in my home. Please, have a seat. Thank you, Naruto. Sama, how long has it been? Eons maybe? Just 3 millenniums, actually. I have seen this world evolve and change. The animals have changed into Pokemon, but the humans are still the same. Arrogant, selfish and above all self-centered. Then again, the humans who train and raise Pokemon to be friends and allies make me happy, even when it's one of the many Vulpix that hang around. Now, you said you wanted to talk about my happiness. Yes, I did, Naruto-san. The Pokegods and I have come to the conclusion that you have been without your mate for far too long. Hinata Hyuga will be reincarnated this winter, on the 27th day of December, in the hospital closest to Pallet Town. That quick, huh? Looks like my wait won't be for naught. I can't wait to see her. Naruto-san, you have patience, which is a good thing to have. Once you go there, you will watch over her, protect her and keep her safe, all while staying silent from the others there. Eventually, you will become her guide in the world of Pokemon. You will give her your loyalty, and in return, ask that she consider becoming your mate. It would then only be a matter of time before the two of you got back together. I understand, Arceus Sama. Arceus then walked out of the den, leaving Naruto in contemplation. On December 27th, outside a hospital close to Pallet Town. In his Hanyu form, Naruto strode through the blinding snow to a window where he could witness the birth of his reincarnated wife. His tails were concealed beneath the cloak, and he was dressed as he was when he attacked Pain in Sage mode. Because of the immense power within him and the joy that came from knowing that he wouldn't be alone for long, he didn't mind the cold. He approached the window and saw Izumi Hyuga give birth to the shy but endearing Hinata once more. But the fact that Hiashi was not present to witness the birth of his daughter made him frown. Naruto thought angrily, I guess Izumi Sama is just a trophy wife to the bastard. Following Hinata's departure and the cutting of the umbilical cord, Naruto made the decision to give his prospective partner a birthday present. Naruto placed his arms to his chest, making it appear as though he was holding a baby, while taking a small amount of Hinata's chakra and a significant amount of his own. A newborn Vulpix materialized in his cradled arms as a result of his power. Whispering softly, I'll take you to Mama now. Baby Suki, Naruto said. Naruto and the baby Vulpix disappeared, engulfed in blue foxfire. Inside the hospital room of Izumi Hyuga, Izumi gently tickled baby Hinata's belly while cooing. The new mother joyfully whispered, "Oh, my precious little Hinata. You're so lovable, I just want to cuddle with you." Izumi was startled when Hinata opened her eyes for the first time. "Oh, no, Hinata. Your eyes. You're blind. I'm so sorry you came into the world this way. It's not right." Izumi broke down in tears. "She's not blind, you know." Izumi turned to the voice in surprise, unaware that there were other people present. She noticed a man with blonde hair, 2 vulpine ears on top of his head, and what looked like 9 golden tails emerging from under his cloak. With concern for Hinata's safety, Izumi questioned, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" The man grinned. "Relax, Izumi. Sama. I mean you and little Hinata. Chan no harm," he replied. Izumi looked at him bewildered. She questioned, "Sama. Chan. What do those words mean?" The man struck himself in the head in his mind. "Sorry, I'm several millenniums older than I look. Back when I was young, the suffix, sama, was used to show great respect, and chan is used for young girls, or between lovers. I, myself, was called Naruto-kun by the woman who loved me," he continued, before adding, "By the way, my name's Naruto Uzumaki. Namikaze. I'm here to give you some good news, and to give your baby girl a gift." Izumi let out a sigh of relief, even though she didn't think half of what was happening was real. "Are you sure Hinata's not blind?" Naruto gave a nod. After saying, "Positive. She has a bloodline trait that allows her to see better than anybody, and someday, she'll figure out how to use it. As for the gift I'm going to give her, she's getting a bit antsy, and wants some attention," he said, before carefully lowering the newborn Vulpix to be close to Hinata. Izumi gave the baby Pokemon a questioning glance. "Why does she only have 1 tail? Vulpix are supposed to have 6 of them." Naruto grinned. "Suki is a newborn. When a Vulpix is first born, it has only 1 tail, and it's as white as snow. Only after bonding with its mother, does the tail split into 6, and become curled," he smiled. Izumi had a startled expression. She was upset with Naruto and yelled, "You took this Vulpix before she could bond with her mother?" "On the contrary, I brought this little one to her mother," Naruto replied, before clarifying, "I used a small amount of the abundant life force inside of Hinata Chan, and a large amount from me, and I used it to create little Suki. While she's technically Hinata's daughter, I'm hoping she will be able to keep Hinata company whenever she'd normally be alone, like a twin sister." Izumi appeared taken aback. She inquired inquisitively, "Is that how all Pokemon are born?" With a shake of his head, Naruto replied, "Nope. I'll explain how, but you mustn't reveal this information to anybody." Thus, Izumi grinned as Naruto briefly whispered in her ear, "That's a beautiful way to be born. It's almost poetic. But why did you feel you could tell me, and how did you know yourself?" she inquired. After smiling, Naruto was engulfed in blue flames and then resurfaced as a Pokemon. "It's because I, myself, am the oldest of Ninetales, as well as one of the oldest Pokemon to walk the earth," he laughed. Izumi examined him. His eyes appeared to smile at what they saw, as if they were looking right into her soul. Electric blue streaks ran through his golden fur. His tails appeared strong enough to easily lift a graveler, and they were at least twice as long as a typical Ninetales. Occasionally, the tails waved around and released puffs of foxfire, seemingly filled with their owner's joy. Naruto grinned as Suki gave a little yip. "Yes, Daddy's handsome, but don't you think Mommy looks nice too?" asked the boy. In response, Suki curled up against Hinata, and her tail's fur started to turn red. Noting this, Naruto said, "See how quickly Suki's tail is maturing. Her bond with Hinata is already strong. I guess I should explain how I know so much about Hinata Chan when she's only just been born." Thankful that Hiashi hadn't entered yet, Izumi nodded. Naruto recounted his past, including how he fell in love with Hinata long ago, how she passed away, and how Arceus decided that Hinata should be reborn to give him another chance at being with her. He also shared a plan he had devised to use Hinata's assistance to bring about true peace between humans and Pokemon. Izumi let out a sigh. "You've waited so long to be with her again, and you seem like such a nice man. I honestly don't know how Hinata will feel about this, but if you wind up getting that close to her again, the 2 of you have my blessing." Naruto gave a nod. "I am truly grateful. Until I become Hinata's first Pokemon, I will watch over her from the shadows. And just so you know of the power I will use to protect her, I will cross paths with you, Hinata, and Hiashi. Baka on your way home from here, and battle your arrogant jerk of a husband." His past self was a horrible father to Hinata, And I want to let loose a little steam I didn't get out of my system back during his first life, he said, and then began to go up in flames, and concluded, your daughter is safe under my watch, Izumi. Sama. And he was gone after that. Halfway back to Pallet Town after a few days. Hiashi frowned at the little creature beside Hinata in the carriage and said, Izumi, just leave it on the side of the road. That Vulpix is a weakling, and will only hinder Hinata's progress as a trainer. Izumi glared at him and argued, for the 100th time, no. You really are a monster that way, Hiashi. Suki is still a newborn, and would die if we left her to fend for herself this early in her life. Besides, little Hinata has already made such a strong bond with her. Unfortunately, she couldn't bear to do nothing to keep her parents comfortable in their old age because they needed the money he gave in exchange. She recalled how much she loved spending time with her parents. They had been content despite their family's lack of wealth. The fact that she hadn't married this gave her peace of mind. Monster. For no reason. But she already knew that he would be a terrible father to Hinata, even though he wanted to raise an heir to inherit his skill in Pokemon training. She hoped Naruto would emerge from the bushes now and take Hinata with him, rather than waiting for Hinata to become a trainer. Izumi was certain that Hinata would prefer having one loving parent over having a loving parent married to a terrible parent, even with the love she would gladly give her. Maybe if I think of a way that we can meet in secret often enough to parent over Hinata together, he will consider taking her. As she was thinking this, the sun broke through the clouds that were releasing light snow. Hiashi tried to locate the Pokemon after realizing right away that it was responsible for this. A voice said, Hiashi Hyuga, I challenge you to battle, as a strange looking Ninetales emerged from behind a big boulder. Hiashi looked around and yelled, where are you, trainer? Come out and show yourself. Izumi mouthed the words, be careful, to Naruto during Hiashi's distraction. After meeting Hiashi's gaze, Naruto remarked, there's no trainer, Hyuga, just me. Hiashi stared at the Ninetales in front of him in shock. He said, you can speak, beast? Naruto gave him a disgusted look. I prefer to be called Naruto. As for being able to speak, I am a very old Ninetales. I've had time to learn a lot, having lived over 3,000 years, he said before growling, let's get started already. In his throat, Hiashi snarled. He threw a Pokeball and said, yes, let's, as a Graveler emerged. Izumi heard Naruto's voice in her head all of a sudden. Hide in the bushes to your left. The real me will be waiting there for you, said the man. I'm going to take cover with the little ones. I know how powerful your Graveler is, Izumi said, turning to face Hiashi. Hiashi just let her know that he had heard her by grunting. Where Naruto was, in the bushes. Naruto exclaimed joyfully, hey, Izumi, Hinata, Suki, Chan, how are you? We're fine, but I'm curious. How are there two of you? Izumi responded. Naruto smiled. Remember, I come from a time when ninjas were a normal thing. Making copies of ourselves with our chakra was just one of many things we could do, he continued. Izumi let out a sigh and then cast a sorrowful glance at the fox demon. Please, can you take little Hinata and Suki with you? I love them to bits, but Hiashi would hardly care for them, and I'm afraid of what that could mean if something were to happen to me someday, she said, reaching out with both babies to Naruto. Naruto nodded his head and responded, I understand what you're saying, Izumi. Sama, but you are one of the most precious people to Hinata. Both in the past, and now. I can't take that bond from her. Then Naruto smiled. But I can be there for her as a friend in her age group. Also, it shouldn't be too hard, with my powers, to hide in your house and keep an eye on Hiashi. Teme, he suggested with a slight chuckle, and then added, don't worry, I won't let Hiashi do anything to Hinata, Suki, you, or any other children you might wind up having while I'm watching. However, due to having responsibilities besides Hinata's safety, I can't be there all the time, so keep your guard up, just in case. Izumi gave Naruto a questioning glance. What responsibilities do you have, anyway? I'm curious, she stated. Naruto sighed and responded, due to Team Rocket's usual activities, many Vulpix are orphaned. As their leader, it's my duty to look after them. I really hope Hinata will be willing to be my wife someday. They need a mother's touch to mature beyond childhood. Izumi gave Naruto a smile. She looked up at Hinata, who was clearly happy and wide-eyed as she looked up to her mother, and said, if Hinata grows up to be anything like me, I'm sure she'll be happy to be their mother. After all, being a mother has always been one of my greatest dreams. The little bundle of happiness embraced Izumi and drew Suki near to her. Suki gave Hinata a loving yip and huddled in closer. Naruto grinned. He remarked, they seem happy. After that, he turned around and declared, I need to leave now. My shadow clone is probably close to defeating Hiashi at this point. After that, he departed. Just a few minutes ago, Hiashi, Graveler, and Naruto's shadow clone. Graveler had good reason to be afraid. He was well aware of the identity of this enigmatic talking Ninetales. Although he had never seen his power, he had heard enough to know it was terrifying. With his cane slamming into the head of the poor boulder. Like Pokemon, Hiashi yelled, "What are you doing, Graveler?" I said, "Use Rock Blast." Graveler scowled. It was aware of the consequences if he attacked Naruto. Hiashi would punish him after he was decisively defeated. Naruto gave Hiashi a disgusted look. Isn't it against the trainer's code to make a Pokemon battle against its will? This Graveler knows of my power, and obviously respects it, as you also should, Naruto told Hiashi. Then he turned to Grave replied, "Relax, my friend. I will make this battle as painless as possible. Just give it your all, and even if Hiashi punishes you, you will have earned my respect by doing this." Hiashi laughed. Hiashi yelled, "What are you waiting for? Use Rock Blast," before turning to face Graveler. "What nonsense are you filling my creature's head with? Winning is all that matters in a battle?" With a sigh, Graveler saw Naruto nod at him, seemingly indicating, "Go ahead. It will be all right." The boulder Pokemon smiled and started shooting rocks at Naruto with his mouth. With a smile, Naruto yelled, "Withdraw." Naruto's tails hardened and encircled his body in an orb, reducing the force. Naruto teasingly said, "You'll have to do better than that, Hiashi." In his throat, Hiashi snarled. He yelled, "Graveler, Fisher." A crack appeared on the ground as the boulder Pokemon stomped his foot, moving toward Naruto. Hiashi grinned when Naruto fell into the crevice. Naruto yelled, "Solar Beam," as a beam of light suddenly emerged from the crack. Graveler was knocked unconscious by a burst of solar energy that descended from the sky. Using the chakra in his feet, Naruto casually walked up the side of the fissure and then just walked back into a waiting position. Hiashi shouted, "Damn you, you infernal beast. You are foolish. You cannot win against me. You have no heart when it comes to training your Pokemon. However, if you repent your ways, I will spare you the humiliation of being beaten by a wild Pokemon," Naruto replied. With a growl, Hiashi withdrew another Pokeball. "Raichu, come out and serve me." After glancing at his master, the mouse Pokemon turned to face Naruto. Raichu nodded as Naruto gave the mouse a subtle wink. Hiashi gave the order, "Raichu, Thunder Attack." Naruto simply stood there as Raichu launched the devastating attack. Hiashi snarled. "Raichu, Thunder again." Naruto simply stood there when Raichu threw another enormous bolt at him. As to what Naruto was doing, Raichu scratched its head in confusion. "I've hit you twice with Raichu's thunder, why have you not fallen?" Hiashi screamed. The stored power flowed through Naruto's tails and was directed at Raichu. Simply, "My tails are acting as lightning rods. I absorb the electricity into my body and will direct it anywhere I choose, and I choose your Raichu." Naruto snapped. Raichu was struck by lightning bolts that struck all of the various pressure points. With a gasp, Raichu fell to the ground. "Check and mate, Hiashi." "Baka." Hiashi remembered Raichu and snarled. Naruto shouted, "You have been defeated, Hiashi. Now I suggest you leave." Hiashi turned around and waved his family to join him, but he didn't say anything to the boy. "We are going home. Hinata needs a nap and you have to make dinner, woman. Come, we leave now," Hiashi said. Hinata was holding her Vulpix when Izumi moved her in her arms. Hinata grinned as she turned back to face Naruto. After a few minutes of waiting, Naruto began to follow. He concealed his energy and continued walking in the same direction, grinning while he did so. "My Hina. Heim, we will be together once more. I shall be your silent protector until that time. I'll be there for you, keep an eye on you, and defend you. I promise that you and I will be one, and I will support you and not lose you the way I did all those years ago." In his human form, Naruto sat in front of a bowl of ramen and observed the Hyuga's house from a distance. Hiashi was a terrible father, as he had foreseen, but he had never realized how awful a Pokemon trainer he could be. According to Hiashi, if a trainer punished their Pokemon enough for losing battles, the Pokemon would eventually start winning just to get out of the punishment. Ridiculous human. Naruto spat when he recalled Hiashi attempting to persuade Hinata to punish Suki for losing to his Graveler. "Suki did her best. I can't ask more than that from her. I won't punish her," said Hinata, who was kind and gentle, in response to Suki's behavior. That recollection made Naruto smile. He could see that Hinata considered Suki to be her daughter and loved her very much. He frequently observed Hinata playing with her, brushing her fur, or feeding her. Suki even referred to her as Mama, and Hinata appeared to comprehend completely despite the fact that it was in Pokemon slang. Happily, he thought, "She's already a wonderful mother." Then, with a note in his mouth, one of the numerous orphaned Vulpix he cares for, passed by. As the little fox Pokemon nuzzled against his side, Naruto took the note from the Vulpix's mouth and examined it lovingly. "Hey, little guy. What did you bring me?" he asked. Naruto smiled. He laughed to himself and made a mental note to discuss this with the old professor later. "So, Oak finally noticed my hideaway on the outskirts of his ranch? Well, it's about time. Good thing I'm part Pokemon, otherwise we'd have to move out," he said. After that, he picked up the small Vulpix by his side. The other Vulpix were exhausted from playing all day, so he said, "It's about time I put you and all your brothers and sisters to bed for a while," and vanished in a flash of foxfire on his way to his house. In the meantime, with Suki and Hinata. After bathing Suki, Hinata was sitting down and brushing her silky fur. Her mother entered the room, looking frightened, just as she was ready to bring her into the living room to play. Hinata said, "Mama. What's wrong? Mama and Papa are going to be doing some things that you shouldn't see, little Hinata. Take Suki, and go over to Professor Oak's for a while," Izumi replied, fighting back tears. Hinata became frightened. She told Hinata not to worry about it, even though she knew her father frequently mistreated and occasionally injured her mother. Hinata gave a fierce shake of her head. Defiantly, she exclaimed, "No, I'm not going to let him hurt you, Mama." Izumi cast a sorrowful glance at Hinata. With her head lowered, she said, "I'm sorry, Hinata. I have no choice. And if you interfere, you'll just get punished." She went on, "I'm not just your father's wife, little Hina. I'm also his slave." Hearing this, Hinata's eyes grew wide. "But Mama, I thought slavery was illegal? So how can you be his slave?" she said. Izumi admitted that, "My mother and father were very poor, and the three of us didn't live very well. Despite this, we were happy, but my parents were becoming sick, and I needed the money to get them treated. Hiashi was looking for someone to become his wife and give him an heir, so I decided I would, as long as he paid for my parents' hospital bills. He decided that, to even out the deal, I would have to give him something more. He asked that I sell myself to him and become his slave. I agreed, knowing that there was no other way. And so, I must stay with him, so that my parents will keep living, and so that I can make sure you have at least one loving parent, Hinata." When Hinata heard her mother's story, she started crying. She hurried over with Suki and gave Izumi a tight hug. "I'll find a way to free you, Mama. I promise," she cried enthusiastically. Suki nuzzled Izumi's leg and whimpered. "I think you will someday, Hinata. Now go to Professor Oak's place with Suki, and be strong for Mama," Izumi said, grinning at the two of them. As she and Suki left, Hinata nodded and tried to wipe away her tears, hoping that her mother would be safe. At Oak's Pokemon Ranch later on, girls didn't appeal to Gary Oak. He still considered them all icky at his age. But he knew he had to do something to cheer Hinata up when he saw the expression on her face when his grandfather invited her inside. "Hey, Grandpa? Can I borrow one of your Pokemon? I know Hinata loves playing with them, and I was hoping that could help her feel better," he said. Professor Oak sighed and responded, "Instead of that, why don't the three of you help me with a small errand? Somebody put up a small house at the edge of the ranch, and I need to ask them what they're up to." After giving a nod, Gary went to where Suki and Hinata had gone. "Hinata? Suki? Want to help me and Gramps with an errand?" he inquired. As if someone were calling out to her, Hinata felt an emotional pull just as she was about to say no. "Okay, we'll go," expressed Hinata. Gary saw the tears on her face as she walked by him holding Suki and remarked, "Maybe you should wash your face a bit before we head out. We've got a little time." Hinata gave a headshake. "Softly, I'll be fine, Gary," she said. "Do you feel that pull, Mama?" Suki asked, nuzzling Hinata's chest. Hinata gave a nod. She replied in a whisper, "You feel it too, Suki? It almost feels like somebody is calling out to us." As Suki reflected, "Papa, we're coming." So the two of them went outside to explore the cabin at the edge of the ranch with Gary and Professor Oak. After a short while, outside Naruto's cabin, Professor Oak, Gary, Suki, and Hinata had finally reached the cabin. They discovered a note at the door. "Come on in. Just be sure not to talk. When you arrive, the children may still be asleep. Regards, Naruto." The original Ninetales. Professor Oak was intrigued by this. The first Ninetales? This Naruto must be pretty old if he really is the first, he yelled. "Papa, Mama, Papa needs you, he's hurting," cried Suki as she abruptly leapt out of Hinata's embrace. Hinata hesitated a little before going into the cabin, not quite sure what Suki meant. After Suki, Hinata discovered that the cabin was actually home to a number of trees, with sleeping Vulpix at the base of each tree. Hinata followed Suki to a room with Gary and Professor Oak, being careful to keep quiet. There wasn't much furniture inside the room. There were 2 dressers, a desk, and a bed with a young boy on it. However, what was unexpected was that this boy had a pair of vulpine ears on top of his head, rather than human ears on the sides, and 9 golden vulpine tails. Suki leapt onto the bed. "Mama, please help Papa wake up. His nightmare is hurting him." Suki began to scream. Hinata rapidly jumped onto the bed, drawing the boy near to her as though she had done it hundreds of times before, as the pull she had felt earlier grew stronger. Hinata gently placed the boy's head in her lap and whispered, "Shh. It's okay. It's just a nightmare. Please wake up," she said. A set of stunning blue eyes slowly opened and gazed up at her. "Hinata-chan? Was it all just a nightmare? I dreamed that Madara Teme killed you, and I lived for 3,000 years. There were creatures called Pokemon, and I became the first Ninetales, after I turned into the new Kyuubi no Kitsune. And then, Kami-sama evolved into a Pokemon called Arceus, and she brought you back as a baby. I watched you growing up again, and saw how Hiashi Baka was a bad father all over again. And then," the young man continued. What Hinata had heard shocked her. She questioned anxiously, Is all that true?" The kid sighed and replied, "Yeah. It was one heck of a nightmare, but there was one really good part. When you were reborn, I took a little bit of your chakra, and a lot of mine, and made a baby fox Pokemon, that I named Suki-chan. You always said, if our first baby turned out to be a girl, you'd want to name her Suki. She was adorable." Suki made the decision to speak up at that moment. "Yay, Papa thinks I'm adorable. That makes me really happy," she shrieked. "It wasn't a dream." The boy whispered breathlessly as his eyes snapped open. He sat up, glanced around the room, and saw Professor Oak and Gary standing there, staring at him with all the vigor of a fox. Then he realized he did have 9 foxtails and 2 fox ears. He then leapt from the bed and, after being consumed by blue flames and resurfacing in his Pokemon form, said, "I am, in fact, the oldest Ninetales to roam the planet. Sorry, Oak. I wasn't expecting you to get here while I was still asleep. My name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and, yes," he said. Professor Oak couldn't believe it. However, Hinata gasped before he could ask any of the questions that were racing through his head. She was gazing at their wedding photo on the wall across from the bed when Naruto turned around. "That's from the day I got married to Naruto-kun. But how do I know that?" she inquired. She soon had Naruto and Suki by her side. Concerned, the strong fire type said, "You're starting to remember already, Hina-chan? I'm remembering little things. I'm a bit scared. Will I lose the memories I have now?" Hinata said, nodding. Naruto gave a headshake. "No, you will have the memories from your past life and your current life. The old Hinata will merge with you, and give you advice from time to time, but it will seem like she's just your conscience. You won't even notice her, because she is so much like you," he said. "Mama, we still have to save Grandma. That mean old man is still hurting her," Suki exclaimed as she leapt into her lap. Naruto snarled. He remarked, "Hiashi Teme is still causing trouble, huh? Well, I guess it's about time you took custody of me, Hinata-chan," before stamping his paw on the ground to reveal an unusual Pokeball with strange symbols and runes on it. Think of the Shiki Fuin on a Pokeball. "Hinata, this is the Fuin Ball, or, as you'd call it in your language, the Sealing Ball. Please hold it up for a moment," said the man. Naruto used his nose to tap the button on it after Hinata followed his instructions. He was drawn in as the ball opened up. The ball clicked, and there was a pinging sound. As Hinata grasped the ball in her small hands, she became aware of what Naruto had just accomplished for her. But before she could give it much thought, there was a loud explosion outside. "They're here, Team Rocket has come to capture Papa again," screamed the terrified Vulpix in the house as they all awoke. A Vulpix approached Hinata and started leaping at the Fuin Ball. "You have to let Papa out, Mama. If you don't, they'll take him away," it yelled. Hearing the little fox Pokemon call her mother made Hinata smile a little on the inside, but she soon snapped out of it, threw the Fuin Ball, and yelled, "Naruto-kun, come out." After a flash of bright light, Naruto stood there evaluating the situation. He muttered, "Why now of all times?" before hurriedly leaving the room and the house. When Hinata and the others arrived, they were startled to see a few tanks and a number of Team Rocket's airships waiting outside. Naruto got to work defending his house right away. "Doden. Fortress of Stone," he yelled, and a stone castle encircled the house as his tails started to move quickly, his equivalent of hand seals. From one of the castle's windows, Hinata observed Naruto leaping outside and taking a deep breath. He yelled, "Fuden. Air bullets," as spheres of compressed air blasted out of his mouth and crashed into multiple tanks, causing holes to burrow through them. The airships suddenly opened fire on him. The volley of bullets was aimed directly at him, determined to cut through him. Ninpo. Needle Jizo, he yelled as he wrapped his tails around his body. A lot of pinging noises were heard, and it was evident that all of the bullets had bounced off when the smoke cleared. Naruto was seen smiling as his tails retracted. His voice was carefree as he stated, "The airships are too close together for their own good." Abruptly, orbs of energy that were blue, red, and black erupted from his body and started to form a pure white orb in front of him. The white orb shrank in size after all the red, blue, and black orbs had been absorbed into it, and then, of all things, Naruto ate it. Professor Oak, Hinata, and Gary watched expectantly. Naruto had consumed a ball of energy, and half of the tanks were already immobilized. Then all of a sudden, a crater appeared beneath Naruto as the ground shook beneath their feet. The airships were totally destroyed when he opened his mouth and released a massive burst of energy. Before Naruto could finish destroying the remaining tanks, Rayquaza and a formidable looking Salamence appeared, and they both used Hyper Beam on the remaining tanks. "Hey! That was my cannon fodder. Get your own," yelled Naruto, scowling. Rayquaza barked and growled, "Don't get angry at me. This trainer wanted me to help him check out where all those airships were going. You're lucky I don't fry you for almost hitting me." Naruto smiled. He bragged, jumping over to Hinata and Suki, who had emerged from the fortress with Professor Oak and Gary after the battle was over. "This trainer must be pretty impressive for you to listen to him. But he's not as great as mine. She's gonna bring true peace to the Pokemon world." The Salamence landed close to the group after flying overhead. A figure wearing a cloak descended from the enormous dragon Pokemon. He approached the group. The figure asked, "Is everyone okay? I hope no one got hurt." "Yes, we are all fine. Who are you and what are you doing here? Also, why is Rayquaza with you?" replied Professor Oak. "I was checking up on the recent rise in activity in Team Rocket, and I saw them converge on this area. Rayquaza told me who they were after, and I went to help." "You see, they were after your Ninetales, miss," he responded, turning to Hinata. After glancing at Naruto, Hinata turned back to the figure. She questioned why Naruto would be desired by Team Rocket. "Excuse me, but why would Team Rocket want Naruto-kun?" replied Hinata. "Their leader wants rare Pokemon. Your Ninetales, little one, is a rare Pokemon," he replied. "That makes things different. Now then, would you care to introduce yourself?" Professor Oak responded. After saying, "I do apologize," the figure reached up and removed his hood. His black, midnight hair cascaded down to the small of his back. His eyes were chocolate brown, and he had a grin that was so similar to Naruto's swearing. "My name is Lance Kumazuki, current Pokemon Master, member of the Pokemon League and honorable friend to legendary Pokemon." Naruto gave him a snort and used an ember attack to burn his cloak. Lance glanced at the spot where the ember struck his cloak. He scowled as he glanced at Naruto. "That's my job," Naruto said. "You're too much of a show-off." Lance turned to Hinata, choosing to ignore the remark. "That Ninetales you have is pretty impressive, and that Vulpix is adorable. I take it they are both yours, little one?" Hinata responded. Answering, "Yes, this is Naruto, my Ninetales, and the little one is named Suki." Hinata bowed courteously and added, "My name is Hinata Hyuga, though I really wish I could just take my mama's surname." Gary inquired, "What was her surname, Hinata?" "It was Hikari." "Hinata Hikari sounds so much nicer, don't you think?" she replied. After giving her a look, Naruto decided. He swung his tails a couple of times, and a scroll materialized on the ground close to Hinata. He said, "Hinata-chan, we are going to go back to your house and have Hiashi." Baka signed this, with a tone of commitment. "What is that scroll?" inquired Professor Oak. "It's a demonic contract. If Hiashi signs this, and we defeat him in any contest of our choosing, like a Pokemon battle, he has to follow a set of rules under the contract or be pulled into the pits of hell," he responded, and then turned to Hinata to clarify. "I took the liberty of writing it out for you according to the problems he's caused in your life, as well as your mom's, as a failsafe in case I ever had to free you free from him." With a sympathetic nod, Hinata embraced Naruto's foreleg. She rubbed her cheek against his warm, soft fur and whispered, "Thank you, Naruto-kun." Suki, not wanting to be left out, leapt on Naruto's back and embraced him, saying, "Thank you, Papa. To receive so much attention from two of the most beautiful girls in my life is truly a blessing." Naruto smiled. With a laugh, he lifted Suki off his back and placed her on the ground. He then moved away from Hinata and gave her the contract, pricking her finger before she could notice and saying, "Just sign your name with the blood on your finger, and your part of the contract will be set." Hinata was on the verge of signing it when she recalled her mother's advice to always read a contract or agreement before signing it. Hiashi Hyuga must grant Izumi Hikari Hyuga full custody of Hinata Hikari Hyuga and any additional children born to Izumi Hikari Hyuga in the event that Hiashi Hyuga loses this Pokemon battle against Hinata Hikari Hyuga. In the event that Hinata Hikari Hyuga defeats Hiashi Hyuga in a Pokemon battle, Izumi Hikari Hyuga must also be released from Hiashi Hyuga. Additionally, Hiashi Hyuga will be required to continue covering Izumi Hikari Hyuga's parents' medical expenses if Hinata Hikari Hyuga defeats him in the Pokemon battle. Hinata Hikari Hyuga's strongest Pokemon might be taken by Hiashi Hyuga if he defeats him in the Pokemon battle. Hinata shuddered for a second. If she prevailed in the fight, she and her mother might be set free, but a part of Hinata was afraid for Naruto, but a larger part told her to trust him. She signed the contract right away, and Naruto nodded to her, rolling it up again. If you're a Pokemon League champion, you have the ability to issue trainer licenses, he said, turning to Lance. I promise you, I will not lose, and, therefore, neither will you, Naruto said resolutely to Hinata. Assuming that Hinata-chan is Hinata Hikari Hyuga, kindly issue one for her. Lance smiled, of course. She just needs to tell me a few things, like when she was born, where she lives, and which Pokemon she currently owns. After he responded, Hinata gave him the information he needed, and he produced a small device. In a matter of seconds, Hinata's trainer card appeared, and Naruto grinned and said, your picture looks nice, Hinata. Hinata laughed and said, thank you, Naruto.kun. Gary and Professor Oak approached and examined Hinata's trainer card. I'll say this since I know your father won't. The elderly professor turned to Gary and said, I'm very proud of you, Hinata, adding that it would soon be your turn to begin your journey. Hinata has no choice but to start early, so try not to be envious of her. Gary gave a nod. Gramps, I get it. In addition, I still haven't decided which starter I want to start with, he replied. Hinata giggled at him, and Naruto nuzzled her gently. The small girl let out a sigh of contentment, obviously enjoying how Naruto was treating her. Suddenly, Naruto stopped, and shouted, darn it, the contract pertaining to the Fuin Ball slipped my mind. Concerned, Hinata said, Naruto.kun, what contract are you referring to? She said, as soon as you caught me in the Fuin Ball, we made a deal, to which Naruto sighed. You have to think about becoming my mate in exchange for me letting you catch me. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you, but you just have to think about it. I'm pretty sure I can fall in love with you and be happy about it, Naruto.kun. Hinata said with a gentle smile while rubbing Naruto's muzzle with her hands. She said happily, then stood on her tippy toes and kissed his cold wet nose. Naruto grinned, went back to his human form. Whenever he does this from now on, he's going to turn into a version of himself that's the same age as Hinata. And gave her a hug, grinning all the while. Thanks, Hinata-chan, he whispered softly. Suki and Hinata both gave a cute little yawn, and they both started to feel exhausted. Naruto transformed back into a Pokemon and held the two of them tenderly with his tails, saying, calm down. The two of you have had a long morning. As he lay on his belly in the grass, he placed the 2-4-year-olds by his side and said, just take a little nap, and I'll watch over you. Professor Oak watched in awe, thinking that this was the ideal chance to study how Pokemon raise their young, but for the first time, he was anxious about observing them in this manner because he didn't want to ruin their sleep by giving them the impression that they were being displayed or something. With his tails wrapped around Hinata and Suki's little bodies, Naruto provided them with a kind of blanket, nuzzling them and licking Suki's fur and Hinata's cheek tenderly. Hinata grinned as she put one arm around Suki and rubbed Naruto's side with her free hand. Mother and daughter soon fell asleep, and Naruto sat with them, his tails protecting them from harm. Would you mind judging the match? Naruto asked, turning to face Lance. With a nod, Lance said, I'll be there. I have a feeling Hiashi will use illegal tactics, and we need somebody from the Pokemon League who can reprimand him, if need be, Naruto said. For now, just get some sleep. With his daughter sleeping by his side and his prospective mate nodding, Naruto relaxed. In the mindscape of Hinata, Hinata was perplexed. In the middle of Professor Oak's Pokemon Ranch, she had dozed off beside Naruto and Suki. Now, though, she found herself in a space filled with floating portraits of herself and Naruto, as well as a number of other people she didn't recognize. She awoke to the realization that she was much taller than she had been when she had fallen asleep. In addition, her body felt much stronger and older than before. Looking down at her feet, she noticed a girl with indigo hair like her own, but with 2 fox-like ears protruding from the top of her head, 6 vulpine tails, and whisker. like marks on her cheeks. She recognized this girl as Suki somehow. When Suki's eyes opened, she turned to face Hinata. She exclaimed with excitement, "Mama, you look all grown up," before getting to her feet in astonishment at her new appearance. "And I'm a Han now," she exclaimed. A familiar voice behind them replied, "We're in our mind, Hinata. Chan." Hinata hurriedly put her arms around Suki and said, "Do you know where we are, Suki? Chan?" When they turned around, they saw Naruto in his adult form and a woman who appeared to be a slightly younger Izumi, dressed in a beautiful blue kimono and sporting long, flowing hair in a braid. Hinata asked joyfully, "Mama?" The woman nodded and replied, "I'm not our mama, Hinata. Chan. I'm you from your past life. And I'm rather happy for you, since you've managed to make one of our greatest dreams come true." The older Hinata looked at Suki and replied, "I've always wanted to have a baby with Naruto-kun, and you've happily taken Suki as your daughter. Therefore, we're both mothers now. However, I have sadly been unable to lend a helping hand in raising her." Naruto grinned and replied, "Things will be different soon, though, as you two will fully merge. That is, if you want to, Hinata. Chan? You'll still be the dominant mind, but the Hinata from way back when will be able to experience everything you do, and she'll be able to help you from time to time. All she asks is that she will be able to be with me, through you, from time to time." Hinata, younger, turned to Suki. She said, "What do you think, Suki? Chan?" Suki laughed and replied, "I have one wonderful mama. Having two wonderful mamas can only be better, right? And besides, she's you." After giving Suki a smile, Hinata turned to face Naruto. She said, "Is there anything else I need to know?" Hinata nodded, realizing that her older self had probably had a far more terrifying life than her own. Naruto responded with a contemplative gesture, "Yeah, one other thing. You'll be able to access the old Hinata's chakra as well as her memories, anytime you want. Unfortunately, that includes the bad memories. You might want to stay away from those ones." Naruto faced the Hinata of the present as well as the Hinata of the past. He said, "Are the two of you ready?" The former Hinata approached Naruto, drew him into her cozy embrace, and then gave him a passionate kiss in return. Hinata whispered, "I am now." Returning to her younger self, the elder Hinata kissed her lightly on the cheek. For luck, she chuckled as she spoke. "I'll see you when we wake up, okay?" The younger Hinata said to the younger Vulpix, grinning at her elder counterpart and bending down to embrace Suki. Suki kissed her mother after nodding. Naruto made a number of hand seals. The almost identical girls were surrounded by a golden glow, and the older girl started to fade away as the glow shifted into her younger self. The younger Hinata let out a gasp as a lot of feelings and experiences mixed with her own, then grew progressively less intense. She briefly recalled every detail of her previous life, and then everything went dark. Afterwards, in Hinata's chamber, as Hinata stirred in bed, she experienced a tremendous wave of warmth. She turned to see that she and Naruto were in bed together, his tails encircling her like a fluffy blanket. His tails hugging her made Hinata feel so at ease. Hinata grinned as she observed Naruto in his Ninetales form. She gave a quiet giggle as she glanced at Suki, who was snoring lightly and nuzzling Naruto's tails. "It's time to wake up, Naruto-kun and Suki. Chan," Hinata whispered. When Naruto woke up from his slumber, he saw his lavender-eyed angel. Naruto inquired, "Did you sleep well, Hina? "Yes, I did. Your tails are very soft," Hinata said, pressing her face against them. Suddenly, Naruto acquired one of his shadow clone's memories. Since the clone was posing as Hinata, Hiashi had no way of knowing that Hinata possessed the Ninetales that had defeated him years prior, and it had been successful in getting him to sign the contract. Since the fight would be 3-on-3, the shadow clone had also discussed with Lance the possibility of giving Hinata a third Pokemon as soon as possible. He turned to Hinata with a smile. Naruto stretched a little and remarked, "As much as I would love to lay here with my girls, Hinata. Chan, you have a battle to get ready for." Suki and Hinata both groaned as they stood up. After standing up and stretching his back, Naruto took a seat. In order to avoid raising suspicions, he was still in his Ninetales form. After changing, Hinata was dressed in blue jeans and a lavender tank top. As she worked on adjusting her hair, Naruto gazed at her. Wondering why Naruto was staring at her, Hinata questioned, "What is it? Do I have something in my teeth?" "You're definitely gonna win," he said abruptly, grinning. "You think I will?" Hinata inquired, her anxiety subdued by hope. Naruto grinned and said, "I know you will," to her. Hinata leapt and gave Naruto a hug. Naruto hugged her back and encircled her with his tails. As they parted ways, Hinata collected herself. "Are you ready, Hinata? Chan? Naruto asked. Yes, I am. I am ready to fight for not only my freedom, but Mama's as well, Hinata replied. Gary, Professor Oak, and Lance were outside the house as Naruto and Hinata left. Lance approached Hinata and knelt. Lance reached into his cloak sleeve and took out a Pokeball with a lightning bolt etched on it. Hinata, even though you're young, you show a lot of promise as a trainer. Since the battle is going to be a 3-on-3 and you only have 2, I want you to have this Pokemon. I caught it the other day, he said. Grinning, Lance gave her the Pokeball. Hinata inquired, what's in it? This Pokemon is special. I caught this one in hopes of training him, but I think he will suit you just fine, Lance stated. When Hinata threw the Pokeball, a Pikachu emerged. Pikachu looked around after shaking itself off. Pikachu exclaimed, what the hell is going on? Who are you? Hinata dropped to her knees and held out a hand. My name is Hinata Hikari, and I'm your new trainer, Hinata said. Pikachu grinned and held out his paw. I can tell you're a nice human. I'll be your partner, as long as I don't have to go back into that dang Pokeball, it's way too cramped, he replied. As a greeting, the two shook hands, and Pikachu gave Hinata a small start. It was like powerful static electricity to Hinata. Her hair stood on end in places. Lance gave a hand clap. Alright, let's do this thing. Hinata has a battle to win, replied Lance. Everybody raised their hands in joy. The journey to Hinata's home for the battle began for all of them. Gary and Professor Oak were both exhausted, as Naruto and Lance had observed. Resuming his fox form, Naruto gestured for Hinata to climb onto his back. Lance extracted a Pokeball from the sleeve of his cloak. Go Torterra! Let Lance exclaim. The Pokemon from the continent emerged, shook itself off, and stomped one foot to knock off any loose leaves. Torterra said, what did you need, Lance? Lance said, my friend, we need a lift. Are you up for it? Okay, Torterra said, hope on, Oak and Gary. The fruit just ripened. Hiashi was waiting with a rather irritated expression on his face as they boarded Torterra and made their way to the outdoor battlefield, which was situated outside of Pallet Town. Took you long enough, you failure. Are you prepared to lose? Hiashi responded. It did not impress Hinata. She was aware that her father was acting. Hinata asked, are you ready to battle, father? Very well, since you are in such a hurry to make a fool out of yourself, we will begin immediately. When I win, I will be certain to remind you of your place, Hiashi responded. He started to perspire a little when he saw the Pokemon standing next to Hinata. Since I am League Master, I shall be the judge in this battle. Will the two trainers please take their places? Replied Lance. Hinata, accompanied by Naruto, Suki, and Pikachu, took one corner while Hiashi went to the other. This will be a 3-on-3 battle, no substitutions. The side whose Pokemon can no longer battle is the loser. Now then, let the match begin, Lance stated. Go Alakazam! Exclaimed Hiashi. Go Suki! Chan! Shouted Hinata. On the battlefield, the two Pokemon stood assessing one another. With a sly smile, Hiashi initiated contact. Hiashi commanded, Alakazam, use Shadow Ball, and Alakazam complied. Hinata urged Suki to use Dark Pulse and avoid it. Suki avoided the blast and fired one of her own shots as Alakazam fired the ball. Suki's attack significantly reduced the power of Dark Pulse because it is a Dark-type move and Psychic Pokemon are vulnerable to it. The fact that Naruto had lent her a Dread Plate also helped. Quick, Suki! Chan! Get in close while it's disoriented, and use Fire Blast at point-blank range, yelled Hinata, smiling. When Alakazam heard that, it expected pain, but the blast of flame that struck it caused more than just heat pain. In fact, the blast knocked Alakazam high in the air. It did not rise again after it fell. Lance declared, Suki is the winner. Alakazam is unable to fight. Hiashi was taken aback. Due to its lower level, Hinata's Vulpix was unable to win. Whatever happened, his next Pokemon would prevail. Go Graveler! Hiashi commanded. Hinata joyfully picked up the little six-tailed ball of cute and cuddled with her for a while. Suki! Chan! Return! You did a great job, she said. When Hinata realized that her new friend knew an amazing Steel-type move that would be useful in the upcoming battle, she smiled. Hinata had been hesitant to send out Naruto just yet. She shouted, Go Pikachu! As she gently placed the mouse-like creature on the ground, believing in her little friend. The rock golem grinned down at the yellow mouse that stood there. Graveler, use Rollout! Hiashi commanded. Although Hinata wasn't totally sure if this would work, her confidence increased when Naruto nodded to her. Hinata yelled, Pikachu, dodge and use Iron Tail as many times as you can. Instead of moving aside when Pikachu saw the rock approaching, he leapt over it onto Graveler and began to run around on top of its head. Graveler was pounded by Pikachu's glowing tail. With each blow, Graveler became weaker until, at last, he fell on the 20th blow. Lance declared, "Pikachu is the victor. Graveler is unable to fight." Hiashi was furious now. His loser daughter was sitting with a full team while he was down 2 Pokemon. "Alright, this pitiful farce is over now. Go Raichu!" exclaimed Hiashi. Knowing that it was his turn, Pikachu hurried back to Hinata. Hinata gave Pikachu a tender embrace to let him know how proud she was. As he stood there, Raichu wished his master had been that kind to him. Still, he waited for his opponent with pride. "Okay, Naruto-kun, now is your turn. Make me proud," cried Hinata. Still in Ninetales form, Naruto left his position beside Hinata and crossed the field to their side. In just 3 seconds, Raichu's pride turned to fear as he looked up at Naruto. Although Raichu didn't want to fight him, he had no other option after remembering this Pokemon. Hiashi commanded, "Raichu, use Thunderbolt." With his tails in the ground, acting like a lightning rod once more, Raichu paused but listened to his master and unleashed a Thunderbolt at the fox, who simply took the blow. Hinata yelled, "Naruto, use Heat Wave." For a brief moment, Naruto's tails glowed with strength. Then they started waving wildly, which caused some wind. The flame plate that Arceus had given Naruto and the bit of tailwind made the flames that shot out of Naruto's mouth and toward Raichu more potent than usual. Naruto stopped the fiery attack by mercifully knocking Raichu out with some killing intent before he could catch fire. Raichu, severely burned and unable to continue, fell in front of Hiashi. As he prepared to kick the Pokemon in a prone position, Hiashi remarked, "You stupid creatures cannot do anything right." With a shout of, "Enough!" Lance left the podium he was standing on and approached Hiashi. "Hinata Hikari has won the match. Plus, after seeing what you were about to do to your Raichu, with my leverage as a league champion in 2 different regions, I, Lance Kumazuki, hereby strip you, Hiashi Hyuga, of the right to be a Pokemon trainer. You are ordered to relinquish all Pokemon that are in your possession until a time deemed fit by myself and the other members of the Elite Four," Lance said, swiftly removing the Pokeballs from Hai. "You can't do this," exclaimed Hiashi. Lance just laughed and replied, "I believe I just did. And now, if you'd so kindly let Hinata and Izumi get their things from your house, we'll be on our way. Speaking of which, where is Miss Izumi?" Hiashi let out a harump. "I'm not telling you where I'm keeping her at, she belongs to me," he yelled. "You don't have to tell us anyway. I can track her down by scent alone. Come on, guys. Let's leave this loser to rot." Naruto sighed and the group started to leave. At that moment, Hiashi lost it. He reached into his pocket, took out a gun, and pointed it at Hinata. Before firing, he yelled, "I may have lost the battle, but you, my daughter, are about to lose your life." When Hinata turned around and saw the gun aimed at her, time seemed to slow down. "I'm scared. I don't want it to end like this," she said to herself as she closed her eyes and waited for the gun to be fired. Just before the gun was fired, the sound, Ninpo, Needle Jizo, was heard, but Hinata was painless. The sound of metal pinging was heard instead of pain. Her eyes widened as she opened one, then both. The bullet's path was totally blocked by Naruto's hardened tails, which had wrapped themselves around her like a wall. After seeing enough, Lance threw a Pokeball, and his Scizor emerged. "Blade! Restrain that man at once. And feel free to leave a couple of cuts if he resists," he yelled. After disappearing from his position, the Steel and Bug type reappeared behind Hiashi and clamped his claws onto the disgusting man's wrists. Hiashi fought furiously. "You stupid little wench. You think you have the last laugh? Well, guess what? The grandparents I had promised to take care of are dead. It's only for your sake that Izumi suffered. How does that feel?" he gasped. With deep sadness that she would never meet her grandparents and that she was the primary cause of her mother's suffering at Hiashi's hands for so long, Hinata covered her face with Naruto's fur. While Suki and Pikachu joined Naruto in consoling Hinata, Naruto cuddled up to her. Suki gently pulled at Hinata's pant leg, and the young girl picked up the fox Pokemon and held it to her warm, motherly, but flat bosom while sobbing quietly. After a brief period of nuzzling Hinata, Naruto raised her and Suki in a cradle constructed out of his tails. Pikachu became enraged and jumped on top of Naruto's head, releasing violent sparks of electricity to make himself appear larger and more menacing. What exactly killed Izumi? Sama's parents, and where are their graves? Naruto asked, turning back to Hiashi in a moment. Hiashi laughed and replied, "They died a few months after their treatment started, of the disease they shared, and they weren't given graves. Their bodies were donated to the hospital. How's that for a fitting fate? Hiashi dropped his gun in terror as Naruto let out an angry roar. After closing and reopening his left eye, the reincarnated Kyuubi revealed an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. He snarled, entangling Hiashi in the renowned and almost unstoppable Genjutsu, Tsukuyomi. After a brief moment, Hiashi screamed in agony and collapsed in Blade's restraints. That should leave him in a coma for about a decade or two. Serves him right, sneered Naruto. Once more, Naruto closed his left eye and opened it to show his normal eye. Wondering what this enigmatic power he employed, Hinata stumbled, "WH. What did you do to him, Naruto-kun?" Naruto sighed and responded, "I used the illusion power of my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, which is called Tsukuyomi. I made certain that Madara could never use his eyes again by taking them as my own. They can't be passed down to my children, so I don't have to worry about them having problems with the Sharingan. Look through the old Hinata's memories, and you'll see what I'm talking about." Hinata's eyes suddenly opened as she relived her memories. "Naruto-kun. You'll lose your sight if you use that power," she cried anxiously. Naruto nodded and clarified, "These were Madara's eyes, originally his brother's. They don't have the blindness problem that Itachi's eyes had. I should know. I used Amaterasu for 5 days straight, tunneling with it to create my den beneath Cinnabar Island, and my eyes are no worse off." With a sigh, Hinata and Suki nestled back into the tail cradle. She rubbed Suki tenderly and said, "Just make sure you don't overdo it. I don't want you getting hurt, carefully." Lance let out a sigh. "I wish I didn't have to, but I'm going to have to get this old man signed into a hospital. I'll have to tell them that you were the cause of the coma, Naruto, but they can't really do anything to you, since you did it in the defense of your trainer. I'll be back later. In the meantime, search for Miss Izumi. I have a feeling she'll be very happy to hear of her freedom," he said, his frown transforming into a grin the final line. Naruto nodded, and Pikachu, resolved to help Hinata and Izumi move past their past, went to Hiashi's house after settling down and cuddling with Hinata between his tails. Meanwhile, outside Oak's ranch, in the forest. Lying low, waiting for an opportunity to get out of the forest, was the only member of Team Rocket who had survived Naruto's counterattack. He had initially believed that the forest would help him conceal himself from danger, so it was strange. But every time he attempted to depart, the forest itself rebelled against him. He sensed that someone was watching him, but who was it? The woodland. Even though that conclusion sounded absurd, it was the only explanation for why he kept getting lost again every time he was about to flee, because an unseen force would grab his leg and take him for a ride. His pride was hurt by the fact that every Pokemon in the forest, no matter how big or small, seemed to be making fun of him. Upon reaching for his Pokeballs, he discovered that they were no longer attached to his belt. He finally made the decision to vent his rage on a poor Rattata after being pulled through the forest for what might have been the 100th time. He roared, "Aarrgh," and hurried the little rat-like creature. However, a Torterra, of all things, dropped from the overhead canopy and stopped him. The situation would have been more frightening if it weren't for the 10-year-old standing atop the Torterra and striking a strange pose. Consider Jiraiya's stance, wearing clothes that resemble those of his youth, but with a spear in his hand behind his head aimed at the person he is introducing himself to, black hair in place of white, and green tattoos beneath his eyes in place of red. Earth tremble, and heaven roar. "I am the Pokemon Sage, the champion of nature, Takeshi Hikaru," the child yelled. By jumping on Takeshi's shoulder and snarling at the Team Rocket grunt, the Rattata enhanced the occasion. The man began to doubt the child's sanity even more as a result of this. The grunt said, I don't get it." With a sigh, Takeshi clarified, "Don't feel bad. You're one of many who don't get it." To the bewilderment of the grunt, the boy took a bite out of the Pecha berry that he had dropped from the Torterra's back. "You know, I got a call from my buddy Lance Kumazuki earlier today, about Team Rocket mobilizing, and heading to attack the famous Professor Oak's ranch. I flew here on my Staraptor's back, hoping for a good fight. What does he leave me to deal with? One grunt, who's so much of a coward. He ran away as fast as he could. So, I decided I was going to have as much fun with this one as I could. And I did. Up until the moron tries to attack one of the forest's inhabitants. Now, I'm going to kill you. Sound good?" he continued. As he was hurled across the clearing and into a tree, the grunt began to laugh and then cried out in agony. Disoriented, the grunt fought to stand up and looked around, only to discover that the boy was no longer beside the Torterra, which, judging by the muffled guffaws coming from its mouth, appeared to be anticipating something amusing. The boy whispered, "Psst, I'm behind you," from close by. When he turned around, the man gasped in surprise. from the waist up, the boy's body was emerging from the tree. The tree had no hole in it. In fact, it appeared as though the boy had assimilated into it. When the boy caught hold of the poor grunt's face, a strange power began to fill the man. He initially believed that he would be able to use this power to get away, but he quickly discovered that his body was changing into something resembling a krogunk. Then those sections became stone. While the nearby Torterra decided he had the munchies and began eating the grass, the man screamed. Subsequently, the boy emerged from the forest with the previously mentioned Torterra, 2 Ninetales, one of whom was holding an egg in her tails, and a Zoomerl, a Glaceon, a Luxray, and a Staraptor, which was positioned atop his tree. Lance was pursued by the Ninetales without an egg in its hand. In the meantime, with Pikachu, Suki, Hinata, and Naruto. Hinata felt simultaneously joy and concern. Even though she and her mother were finally going to be free of Hiashi's control, she couldn't help but wonder where they would go once they had left that awful place with their belongings. Hinata refused to call it home, after everything that had transpired there. Naruto quickly jolted her out of her reverie by placing her down with Suki and Pikachu. She looked up and saw that they were standing directly in front of the door to the master bedroom. "What's wrong, Naruto-kun? Are we there already?" she asked. Hinata had been so absorbed in her thoughts that she had failed to notice they had entered the house. Naruto laughed and replied, "You're cute when you get all lost in thought like that, Hinata-chan. And to answer your question, yes, we're here. Your mama's inside that door, but from what I can smell, she's hurt a bit, so we'll have to be careful with her." Naruto tested the doorknob by reaching up to it and discovered that it was unlocked. He smiled as he transformed into a human. With a laugh about how easy human traps were these days, he said, "Stick back a little bit, Hinata. I'm gonna set off any traps that Hiashi Baka put in there, so you don't have to worry about getting hurt," and opened the door. But his smile disappeared when he opened the door and saw what was inside. He said, "Hinata, stay here. I'll be right back," with an abruptly serious tone. Hinata just nodded, but she was worried about her mother. Trying not to frighten Izumi, who had reportedly been raped at some point, Naruto entered the room slowly. He whispered, "Izumi-sama? Are you awake? It's me, Naruto. I'm going to help you get out of here," intending to reassure his friend. As he got a better look, he saw that Hiashi had not been kind to her at all because she was chained to the bed by her wrists and ankles and that some blood was dripping from her vagina. While working on picking the locks on the chains that bound the poor woman, Naruto asked himself, is this how Hannaby is going to come into the picture? How cruel can Hiashi Teme get? Izumi soon woke up when she saw that someone was letting her go. "Relax, Izumi-sama. It's me, Naruto. Hinata-chan and I are going to get you to a hospital." "Okay," Naruto said, gently placing a blanket on top of her after noticing that she was waking up. Now that her limbs were free, Izumi let out a groan and used one hand to rub her head. Evidently concerned for her child, she inquired, "Naruto? Where's Hinata? Is she okay?" "Don't worry, Izumi-sama. Hinata-chan's right outside the room. She beat Hiashi Baka, and now both of you are free of him," Naruto said with a gentle smile. Izumi grinned. The woman said, "That's my baby girl. She got the job done," with a happy but feeble voice. After getting out of bed, Naruto transformed back into the Ninetales. He said, "Can you move?" After giving Hinata a nod, Izumi yelled, "Sweetie? Can you help Mama get dressed? I'm really sore right now, and I need a bit of help moving around." With Suki and Pikachu, Hinata rushed into the room and gave Izumi a quick hug. She snuggled against her mother's leg and whispered, "I'm glad you're okay, Mama." Izumi grinned, bent over, and gave Hinata a hug. "Naruto told me how well you did today, Sunshine. I'm very proud of you, and your team, too." Izumi smiled, then got up to say, "Now why don't you help me pick out some nice clothes, and we'll take your Pokemon to the Pokemon Center. Does that sound nice?" With concern for the woman's well-being, Naruto questioned, "But Izumi-sama, shouldn't we get you to a hospital?" Izumi turned to face Naruto and motioned for him to approach. When he finished, she gave him a brief kiss on the cheek and said, "I know you're worried about me, and the fact that I might have gotten pregnant from what happened with Hiashi, but I'm all right, and if I am pregnant, I'll just have to make sure I raise the baby to be good like my little Hinata. Besides, even if you're fine, Pikachu and Suki could probably use a good rest, considering how young they are." Naruto nodded, and after Izumi had dressed, he sealed her belongings and Hinata's in a sealing scroll before carrying them all to the Pokemon Center in a blaze of flames. At the Pokemon Center, a moment later, Takeshi yelled, "And you left me what?" Only one grunt, and he was a coward, before realizing that Lance was no longer in front of him. Instead, a strange Looking Ninetales, a woman, and a girl holding a Vulpix in her arms and a Pikachu on her shoulder were standing in his place. Takeshi scowled. He questioned, how did these people get so close to me without him sensing them? You wouldn't have happened to have seen a really tall trainer with a cape, who was standing there earlier, have you? Takeshi heard someone say, I'm right here, shorty. I went to get something to eat about a minute ago. And, yes, I got you your nachos, so don't ask. Takeshi pivoted and gave Lance a fierce look. I can't believe you took advantage of the fact that I shut my eyes halfway through my rant. I challenge you to a battle, he yelled. Lance gave a headshake. Sorry, can't. My team is being healed up right now, and besides, it seems our work here isn't done yet, he said, and then turned to Hinata to clarify. There's a kid here who's going to need our help in the near future. She and her Ninetales, Naruto, seem to be connected to something big, and I for one want to help them to achieve their goals. After a brief moment of frowning, Takeshi's eyes widened as he caught a clear glimpse of Naruto. He turned to his two Ninetales and said, Is this why you insisted on carrying your egg out in the open? Why didn't you tell me we were so close to a living legend? That's the Ninetales Lord from Legend. Dang, this is something big. Hogosha, the male Ninetales, sighed, because you would have made a big deal about it, like you usually do with things like this. Lord Naruto enjoys his privacy, so for him to come out of his den and attempt to befriend a human, only for some knucklehead like you to ruin it, would not be good. We simply thought he might bless our child, so we decided to keep our egg out in the open, just in case he decided to come see us. Hannah, the female Ninetales, nodded and said, If things are as they appear, I'd say the girl next to him is his mate, reincarnated. It's possible that something big will be happening. Something good for all Ninetales and Vulpix. I just hope things turn out well. Takeshi gave a nod. Well, that settles things. We're going to be sticking around for a while, he replied. This could either throw a serious wrench in my plans, or it could be a really good thing, Naruto sighed, thinking. I just hope Hinata, Chan and Izumi, Sama will be alright. The group made the decision to spend the night at the Pokemon Center in the hopes of a bright future, with one member hoping that his plans wouldn't backfire. We've had a pretty exciting time with our heroes. Living with Naruto in his cottage on Oaks Ranch, Izumi and Hinata were relishing life anew. Hinata had learned from Naruto how to use her Pokemon to gain strength. She has also been honing her fighting techniques with the help of Lance and Takeshi. And Izumi was growing larger. Only last week had she gone to see her doctor. Her baby girl was going to be healthy. Her due date was March of the following year. Being an older sister was something Hinata was excited about. It was snowing outside when Hinata and Suki sat down in the cottage to watch the egg for Hannah, who had gone outside to exercise. Because it needed to be kept warm, she chose to hold it in her lap. Suki gave it a questioning look. A baby Vulpix will come out of there in a while, Suki. Chan, do you want to snuggle with it, and show it that you'll be its friend? Hinata was grinning at Suki. The tiny fox Pokemon purred joyfully as she rubbed her face against the egg. Hinata laughed when she heard tiny Vulpix noises coming from inside the egg. Hinata exclaimed joyfully, I can already tell you're going to be a real sweetheart. Before grabbing a bottle of warm milk and motioning for Suki to approach. With the egg in her lap, Hinata held Suki in her arms and started feeding the tiny kit. Knowing that it would soon be their turn to sip from the bottle, the other Vulpix gathered around Hinata. Hinata grinned at every Vulpix, grateful that their fur produced warmth, ensuring that neither humans nor Pokemon would be cold in the cottage this winter. She pondered what Naruto and her mother had planned for her upcoming birthday. She dismissed those ideas and petted the numerous Vulpix waiting for their turn with her free hand, taking pleasure in the noises they made to show their joy. In the meantime, with Hannah, Hogosha, and Naruto. Hogosha and Hannah sat beside Naruto, who smiled as he watched Hinata through the scrying orb the Sandame Hokage once used. At least we know she won't have a problem being the clan mother, if Hinata Chan decides to become my mate. She's already a natural with the kids, it seems, he smiled. Hannah grinned. She's already bonded with several of them. She's definitely going to be a natural when it comes to the clan mother's duties, she smiled. Hogosha let out a sigh. It's highly unlikely that this will happen, since she's already fond of you, but what will you do if she decides not to become your mate, Naruto? Sama? Asked him. Naruto's eyes were filled with sadness as he scowled. He drooped his ears and tails and walked away, saying, I will do my best to keep her happy as life goes on, and make sure I am at her side when she passes on. Hannah let out a sigh. She reprimanded, Hago.kun, you shouldn't have brought that up. Hogosha sighed and replied, I just don't want him to be unprepared for the worst case scenario, in the event that it comes to that. He is very strong, but if he isn't prepared, such a thing would end him. Hana and Hogosha then made their way back to the cottage. After about 30 minutes, with Hinata, the Vulpix kids played with Hinata, who giggled. Although she was still getting used to having multiple small, furry, six-tailed creatures call her Mama, she had to admit that she would be delighted to have them if they were her children. But that made her recall that Naruto, the Vulpix's Papa, had appeared a little depressed when he had first arrived. "Why don't we go see Papa? I think we should cheer him up," she said, turning to face the small group of Vulpix. With a joyful yip, the small fox Pokemon trailed Hinata to Naruto's chamber. After a short while, in Naruto's chamber, with a sigh, Naruto transformed into his Hanyu form. He genuinely didn't want to be left behind as Hinata grew older and passed away. Even worse would be if, like the last time, she died in combat before having had a chance to live her life to the fullest. He combed through his blonde hair. She would despise him if he forced her to be his mate, and they would never be content together. The sound of a small knock on his room's door snapped him out of his reverie. In addition to Hinata and Suki, he sensed that every other Vulpix was waiting for him to respond outside of his room, either patiently or impatiently in some cases. When he heard one of them paw at the door, he chuckled to himself. He tried to put his worries aside as he walked to the door and opened it to welcome them. To his surprise, they all piled on top of him and started showing him love. Hinata said joyfully, "Naruto-kun, we were worried about you. You looked so sad when you came back home, so we decided we'd all come and say hello." But when she noticed the phony smile on his face, she pouted a little. Slightly disappointed in him, she said, "Don't do that. If you're sad, let us know so we can help you." She then hugged him and inquired, "What's wrong? Let us in, so we can help you feel better." With a sigh, Naruto chose to pose the question indirectly. With hope in his eyes, he said, "Hinata-chan, what do you think of me?" Hinata laughed. "I think you're smart, handsome, and funny. You have cute ears that I like to rub, and your tails are very warm and keep me feeling safe at night. All in all, I think I'm going to wind up taking you up on that offer to be your wife. The other Hinata showed me so many memories of you, and they make me want to be your wife even more," she said with a smile, blushing and saying, "Also, you're the sweetest boy I've ever met, in this life and the one before. I want to make you happy, since you do so much to make me happy." After grinning, Naruto put his arms around Hinata and sobbed aloud. "Thank you so much for saying that, Hina-chan. I'd mark you as my mate right now if I could, but it wouldn't be appropriate to marry you at such a young age. I'm glad, though, that you want to be with me so much. Thank you." He burst into tears while holding her. Hinata gave him a back pat while grinning broadly. "Do you mind giving me my first kiss on my birthday? I'd really like if my first kiss was from you," she said, flushed red. Naruto gave a little pout. He suggested, "Do I have to wait that long? Why not on Christmas? I can get some mistletoe from the store, and we can use that as an excuse." He then laughed heartily when Hinata fainted on top of him, her face blushing tomato red and sporting a small smile. When he had finished laughing, he picked her up and brought her to her mother's room for a nap. On the evening of Christmas Eve, 1 week later, Izumi softly exclaimed, "Hinata! Suki! Wake up, sweeties," to her daughter and granddaughter. "Naruto has something special he wants us to see, but we have to get ready really quickly if we want to see it." With a slight groan, the two drowsy heads stood up and stretched and yawned. Hinata asked drowsily, "Is Naruto-kun going to show us Santa Claus?" Izumi laughed. "I doubt it, but he says it's something so heart-warming that you'll never want to forget it," the soon-to-be mother of two clarified, and then added, "Now hurry up and get dressed. We don't want to miss whatever it is he's going to show us. He seems to be very excited about it, too." Hinata hastily got out of bed, assisting Suki in getting down, and hastily put on her clothes. The three of them made their way to Naruto's room, where the immortal creature in question was excitedly bouncing on the balls of his feet. He joyfully exclaimed, "Oh, man, I feel like a little kid again," and motioned for them to cling to him so he could teleport them all at once. Izumi and Hinata vanished in a flash of light as soon as they had each taken Naruto's hand and Suki had settled herself on his shoulder. In Hoenn, outside of Mount Pyre, a flash of light appeared near two Ninetales, one of whom was holding an egg, startling them. Suki, Izumi, Hinata, and Naruto were all present when the light faded. Naruto gave the two Ninetales a smile. "I'm glad you allowed me to bring these three to such a wondrous event. It's not often a human is worthy of seeing the hatching of a wild Pokemon, is it?" He smiled. Both Ninetales grinned. "The fact that you're going to bless our kid early is more than enough payment to allow such gentle-hearted humans to watch how a Vulpix hatches from its egg and bonds with its parents. We're happy to welcome you and your guests to our den, Naruto. Sama, The male Ninetales laughed. The woman blushed and asked, "Is it true that the small human girl there is considering becoming your mate when she comes of age? She looks like she would make a wonderful clan mother. I'm very happy for the two of you." Hinata laughed. "Yes. Naruto-kun has been very sweet to me, both in this life and my past life. I can confidently say that if I were old enough right now, I would happily become Naruto-kun's mate," she said with pride. When Suki heard this, she meowed joyfully. She fervently hopes that her parents will soon tie the knot. It would bring her great joy. As she motioned for Hinata to approach, the female Ninetales pointed to the egg and said, "Would you like to hold it for a moment? If you decide to become Naruto-sama's mate when the time comes, this will give you a bit of experience when it comes to being a clan mother." Hinata nodded and, with the assistance of the soon-to-be mother, carefully encircled the egg in her arms. "I can feel it moving around inside. It's gonna hatch soon," Hinata said, laughing. The Ninetales woman grinned. "I'm glad you have such a warm heart. I already know your name is Hinata. You may call me Haruka. I bet you will be a wonderful mother to your own kids when you grow up," Haruka smiled. Hinata gave a little giggle. "I already have a kid of my own, Suki-chan, while she wasn't born from my body like most humans' children, was partly created with a bit of my life force. She is my first child with Naruto-kun, and I doubt she will be my last with him," she said with a grin. The egg began to crack abruptly, and a hole soon appeared. As the egg began to hatch, Haruka wrapped her tails around Hinata. In addition to Izumi and Naruto, Koru, the father of the soon-to-be hatched Vulpix, also came over to observe. The pieces of the egg started to fall apart, and a baby vixen named Vulpix sat there, looking inquisitively at the creatures around her. She had a single, pure white tail that slowly wagged back and forth, and her eyes were blue like the sky. As soon as the baby saw her mother, she ran to Haruka and gave her a tender nuzzle. "Your eyes are pure blue, like the sky, so I think I'll call you Sora. Does that sound nice?" asked Haruka. At the name, Sora gave a happy yap, but when her stomach rumbled, she let out a little whine. "Come here, little one. Mama's got your milk," Haruka said softly as she brought Sora's tails up to her underbelly. Soon after, Sora discovered a small nub that was dripping milk, and the young kit started to nurse, forging a strong bond with her mother. "Will I be able to feed Suki like that ever?" Hinata asked Naruto as she turned to face him. "Maybe when you're a decade older. Right now, your body's not meant to do those kinds of things," Naruto said, flushed red. Hinata yawned wearily after giggling at how taken aback Naruto was by that question. She picked up Suki and said drowsily, "I want to go to bed," only to discover that she had already dozed off. Naruto let out a sigh. "I guess our trip is over. Let's all go back home. We've got a busy day tomorrow, after all," he replied. In anticipation of tomorrow's Christmas Day, they all teleported home. On Christmas Day, the following morning, Hinata awoke with a sigh. She was curled up against something fluffy, and because she was so comfortable, she didn't want to get out of bed. Naruto questioned from close by, Hinata-chan, don't you think we should be getting up right about now?" Hinata let out a sigh. She moaned in protest, "But this blanket is so comfy." "That's not a blanket, Hina-chan. Do you mind letting go of my tails?" Naruto laughed sheepishly. Hinata let out a eep and went red in the face. She started apologizing repeatedly as she let go of Naruto's tails. Naruto merely smiled. Having been in his Ninetales form the entire time, he explained, "It's okay, Hinata-chan, I just have to get some work done, since it's Christmas Day," before jumping off the bed. What kind of work, exactly?" Hinata asked, giving him a questioning glance. Naruto's smile widened even more. "Getting presents for you, your mother, Takeshi, Lance, Pikachu, and all the kids, of course. I'll be back in a while, okay?" he continued. Hinata stopped him just before he left the living room, where the previous evening, after returning from witnessing the birth of that one Vulpix, they had dozed off on the couch. "What do you want me to get you for Christmas, Naruto-kun?" she inquired. Naruto nuzzled the side of her face tenderly while grinning warmly at her. He exclaimed joyfully, "Don't worry about it, Hime. Just spending so much time bonding with you is more than enough of a gift for me," and left Hinata with a renewed resolve to make Naruto a nice present before he returned. She searched her Pokédex for items he might enjoy and was shocked to discover that ramen was his favorite dish. Later, with Takeshi and Lance, Takeshi inquired, "So, what did you get our little protege for Christmas?" "What did you get her?" Lance asked after he said, "I ordered some sweets that Naruto assured she'd love." Takeshi produced a tiny pebble. It looks like an ordinary pebble, because it is an ordinary pebble. However, This ordinary pebble is special, he said with a grin. Takeshi added, stretch out your senses a bit, moron. After noticing Lance twitching on the ground and muttering about how dumb some children are. Lance's eyes grew wide as he did. That is a special ordinary pebble, he said, adding, you're right. Why didn't you get me one? He asked. When Lance finally took the time to recall all the reasons he wouldn't need it, Takeshi asked, do you honestly think you'd need it? And a drop of sweat appeared on the back of his head. Takeshi's face suddenly lit up with a malevolent smile. Then he turned to point at Lance, but he wasn't there. It's been a while since we've had a senjutsu battle. I've never won once, but I think today I might be lucky. Lance Kumazuki. I challenge you to a senjutsu battle, he stated. He sighed and stretched his senses, looking for him, after saying, damn, there he goes, making me look like an idiot again. Soon after, he discovered that the forest had a significant concentration of senjutsu energy. Found him. Takeshi muttered malevolently before launching himself in the direction he felt the senjutsu energy was leading him, phasing through obstacles like rocks and trees. He reached for his target and drew an earthen spear from the ground. He jumped into the air and yelled, you thought you could hide from me, Lance? But was swatted down by a strong tail that belonged to Naruto. The nine-tailed creature let out a sigh. You make a lot of noise. And, no, I'm not Naruto. I'm one of his shadow clones. I stay here on standby, gathering senjutsu chakra, just in case the original ever winds up needing it. The chakra construct went on to say, there are 23 more shadow clones doing the same thing in different places for when he winds up running out. Right now, the real me is gathering berries for the kids, and after that, he's going to his original den to get presents for Hinata, Chan, Suki, and Pikachu. If he knows about senjutsu energy, then how good is he at Kawazu Kumite? Takeshi inquired. How the heck do you know those terms? You aren't a normal human, are you? The shadow clone asked after examining him with interest. Takeshi smiled. Then he suddenly struck a strangely familiar pose and declared, from the legendary peak of Mount Coronet, to the deep oceans of Hoenn, raised by his mother's team from birth to today, and one of the few humans able to use Pokemon attacks. I am the legendary Pokemon sage, Takeshi Hikaru, he had said, with how old you are, I'm surprised you've never heard of me. Naruto let out a sigh. Please tell me you don't consider yourself to be a super pervert, he sighed. Takeshi began to perspire. I wonder what kind of berries this Ninetales has been consuming. Moron. I'm too young to be interested in girls in that kind of way, he deadpanned. Naruto sighed with relief. He concluded with a tinge of melancholy, saying, thank God. I don't think the world is ready for another arrow. Senin, no matter how much I miss the old pervert. Takeshi took a seat. He patted the shadow clone's back and said, given your age, you must have lost a lot of friends. I bet it's tough. My Izumi, who was with my mom at the time, told me she died with a smile on her face, because she had been able to give birth to me and hold me in her arms. You're really lucky, though. Even though the girl you loved died, she found a way to come back to you. If I could bring back my mom, even for a few minutes, I'd be very grateful, and I'd hug her and thank her for fighting long enough to hold me before she passed, Takeshi continued, before adding, it isn't of perverted nature or anything, but that kid, Hinata, always seems to have a little glint in her eye that's only there when you're around. Even though she's still just a kid, it looks like she's fallen for you already. Naruto gave a pitiful smile. With a final smirk, he said, I know, but it's very possible she'll find somebody else. However, I'm allowed to interfere in other relationships she might have, aren't I? Takeshi smiled contentedly. He made a fist and yelled, I like the way you think. If you start to lose her, fight for her. Put some of your senjutsu energy in this. I'm going to give it to Hinata for Christmas, and if your energy's in it too, you'll be able to help her out the same way I would through this, he said, taking out the pebble he was giving Hinata. Naruto questioned, it's like a tracking device, isn't it? Takeshi gave a nod. There's another feature to it, but I'm not going to tell anybody until I give it to Hinata, he said. As long as this other feature isn't dangerous, I don't have a problem with you giving her that. Now get back to the cabin. Lance and my original are already back with their gifts for everybody, and it's almost time to open gifts, the shadow clone replied. The 8-year-old Sinnoh, Hoenn champion joyfully cried out, Roger, as he made his way to the cabin. Inside the cabin of Naruto. In the living room, where Naruto had recently added a hearth, a fire was roaring. Food prepared by Izumi and a small group of Naruto's shadow clones was spread out on tables for both humans and Pokemon. The original sat with Hinata and gave each Vulpix a refreshing bottle of juice that was made from berries Naruto personally selected based on the preferences of each of his young companions. One thing unites Vulpix, Ninetales, and Hinata, as Naruto had taught her. None of them truly feel the need for material possessions. Like Naruto, they value time spent with loved ones far more than material possessions. They simply cherish the fact that their relationship with the giver-receiver has become stronger than the gift itself, not because they don't like receiving gifts. For Hinata, it was her first authentic Christmas. Since Hiashi did not observe holidays, there were no Christmas celebrations in his manner. He would say, "It's a day that would be better spent training," every time. When the young trainer discovered that Naruto had prepared a bottle of sweet berry juice for her to give to Suki, she was thrilled. Like Hinata, the little Vulpix was a huge fan of her sweets. Hinata also prepared a large bowl of ramen for Naruto using some of her memories from her previous life. Since cooking isn't supposed to be done by a lone, almost 5-year-old, she naturally asked her mother for assistance. This time, Naruto had made sure to relish the taste and had thoroughly enjoyed it. Naruto had given Hinata a number of items from her previous life, including some of her kimonos and the heavy jackets that he promised Hinata she would eventually need. In response to the question of how he maintained them in such excellent shape, Naruto said, "Time means nothing inside of a ceiling scroll." Naruto created a sweater for Izumi that read, "World's Best Mom," and featured a photo of her holding Hinata's hand while strolling through a park while pregnant. In order to make her younger daughter more visible in it, Naruto promised to make another one as soon as Hannaby was born. Suki was given a book on kitsune shape shifting by Naruto, who also told her that Hinata, her mother, would find it easier if they at least looked like they belonged to the same species. With Izumi's assistance, Suki started going through it right away in the hopes that she would become a little baby that would look like her mother. Hinata had received some coupons for massages for Pikachu and Suki, and Pikachu had received a light ball from Naruto to hold onto in order to eventually learn Volt Tackle. This made the two of them very happy. In addition to a present for Suki, Takeshi and Lance also had presents for Hinata and Izumi. Hinata had to teleport all the way to Snowpoint City Sweets Inc. and back to get a fresh cinnamon bun that Lance had given him. Hinata nearly tried to eat it all at once, but Naruto pulled her away when he realized she wouldn't stop. He warned her that eating it too soon would give her a stomachache and that he could keep it sealed for later so it would remain fresh whenever she wanted to eat it. Takeshi had given Hinata the special ordinary pebble, and instructed her to channel some of her chakra into it so that he, Lance, or Naruto would sense her need for them if she ever found herself in trouble and they were within 50 miles of her. Additionally, it served as a means of tracking her in case she got lost. As a result, Takeshi got her a practice set of Pokeballs and moving and unmoving targets, explaining that Pokeballs don't home in on their targets. You have to learn to aim and throw them properly if you want any chance of catching a wild Pokemon. Takeshi knew that a gift wasn't as fun if it wasn't used for a long time. In order to create space for Hannaby when she is finally born, Lance and Takeshi hired a team of workers and acquired a number of baby supplies after deciding that it would benefit everyone if they assisted with the baby. Additionally, Takeshi and Lance received a pair of soothe bells for Suki, one of which bore Naruto's name and the other Hinata's. Suki proudly wore them and thanked the two champions with tiny Vulpix kisses. Additionally, Naruto gave Takeshi and Lance more nuggets than they could count because he didn't know enough about them to buy them real presents. When Takeshi finally determined their weight, he exclaimed, "It's over 9,000, even though he was mistaken by at least 1,000,000 Pokecredits. Lance let out a sigh. "Just make sure you don't spend it all on a bicycle. We can get vouchers for those," said the man. Anyone who has played Red, Blue, and Yellow and has enough recollection of the game will recall that purchasing a bicycle with cash was physically impossible. Without a voucher, a bike would not be available. Following the exchange of gifts, everyone feasted on a delicious meal while watching the snow fall outside and speculating about what the upcoming years would hold. And when no one was looking, Hinata planted her first kiss on Naruto. She blushed a deep red, but she was still ecstatic. On March 27th, a few months later, Izumi was humming a cheerful melody. She would arrive at any moment. Given that Hana and Hogosha were his Pokemon and this would be their first kit, Takeshi naturally chose to join her when Lance offered to stay with her that day because Naruto and Hinata needed to assist with the hatching of Hana and Hogosha's egg. "Lance, thanks again for staying with me while everyone is out," Izumi replied. "Sure thing, Izumi, it's no trouble at all. Besides, I like helping out. No one should be alone when they're almost due," Lance said. "You'll make a great husband someday. You know that, right?" Izumi said with a simple smile. "Yeah, but right now, Misty and I are just friends. I would like something to happen between the two of us, though," Lance replied. "Trust me, Lance. She will see that you are a great catch. Plus, your being a Pokemon League champion doesn't hurt your chances either." Izumi poured a cup of tea for each of them and took a seat. Izumi inquired. How did you two meet, anyway? Well, it was at a league function. She caught my eye because of her temper and her hair, a shade of red, like fire. Izumi sipped her tea and said, That's sweet, Lance. You care about her looks, but what are her other qualities? Well, she's not like other girls, that's for sure. She acts like such a tomboy, but when it's just us, I see a side of her that makes me really like her. She's a water Pokemon trainer. I've never seen someone with such passion like Misty. Izumi merely grinned at Lance's clowning. She felt a surge of water come from her as she stood up to clear the table. She let out a loud gasp. Lance said, Izumi, what's wrong? With concern. My water broke. I'm going to have the baby, Izumi said, flinching as the contracting began. Lance hurried to the videophone, Pokeball transporter and dialed a number. Crap, Naruto and Hinata are still off with Takeshi waiting for Hana and Hogosha's egg to hatch. Izumi, go get comfortable, and I'll make a call. Good thing I had this put in. Before the other line answered, it rang a few times. Professor Oak speaking. Professor, it's Lance. Listen, I need you to send over Tsunade right away. Izumi has gone into labor and it's just the two of us. She's the only one I can trust with this kind of task. You got it, Lance, but if you don't mind me asking, why are you asking for Tsunade? Oak inquired. Simple, she's trained in both human and Pokemon health practices. Like I said, she is the only one I can really trust. Alright, I will send her over in a second. As the Pokeball was moved over, Oak disappeared from view of the screen and the teleporter came to life. Lance smiled as he picked up the Pokeball after it was sent over. Nice to see you, old friend. Now we need your help, Tsunade. When Lance threw the ball, a rather big and powerful Blissey emerged. Her expression was one of genuine expertise. What do you need, Lance? Inquired Blissey. Izumi has gone into labor, and there's no one else here. You're the only one I trust with something this precious, Lance said. After nodding, Tsunade proceeded to the bedroom where Izumi was yelling in agony. Tsunade managed to determine that Izumi was almost ready to give birth. Izumi, you're doing well. You're 9 centimeters dilated. Lance, try to find the others. Izumi is going to want them here for this special event, said Tsunade. After giving a nod, Lance departed from the cabin to locate the others. In the meantime, with the others, as Hinata got to work, Naruto watched in awe. Vulpix's most recent kid was incredibly cute. Naruto remarked, She's gorgeous, isn't she, Hinata? Yeah, she sure is, Hinata said softly as she massaged the child's ears. In order to avoid frightening the baby vixen, Suki approached at a cautious trot and licked her nose a few times, which caused the little Vulpix to cry out in delight. Takeshi and the rest of his team, who had been keeping a little further away so they wouldn't end up intruding on anything personal, were summoned by Hana and Hogosha, the Vulpix's parents, both Ninetales, with Hana being Hogosha's maid and Hogosha being one of Takeshi's more powerful team members. They're used in contests rather than battles. Short author's note. In addition to the 2 Ninetales, Takeshi's team includes a male Torterra named Ferterra, a female Staraptor named Sora Chan, a female Glaceon named Yuki Haim, a female Azumarill named Mizu Bubbly, and a female Luxray named Rai Namida. Takeshi considers all of these characters to be family because they all contribute to his upbringing. I apologize for not mentioning them earlier. Lance Kumazuki's team will also be revealed at some point. Takeshi squatted down beside the Vulpix and sniffed her for a moment before asking, What are you gonna name her, you two? You weren't kidding when you said no humans helped raise him, were you? Naruto said in a whisper, raising an eyebrow as he turned to face Takeshi's group. Is that really such a bad thing? Humans, out of all the creatures in the world, are the only ones capable of cruelty. Sure, a lot of them are nice, but that's usually only when it's in their best interests. Takeshi responded to Mizububbly's dismissal by saying, My father and Hiashi Hyuga are 2 prime examples of how evil humans can become. With a sigh, Naruto clung to Hinata with his tails. As much as I hate to say it, Takeshi is right about this. But most humans do try to help one another nowadays, and there are fewer acts of cruelty today than there were back when I was human. But now's not the time for such an argument. This little one needs a name, he said, before turning to Hana and Hogosha as well. Hana gave her daughter a smile. What do you think of Miyuki as a name, my beautiful little kit? She inquired. Miyuki, who had just been given a new name, went to her parents with a smile and a joyful mule. Since Takeshi doesn't have the funds to keep another extra team member with him outside of battle, we'll need to find a reliable trainer for her, Hogosha sighed, adding, preferably Lance or Hinata. Sama, as we'll be with them frequently, and Hinata. Sama already has Suki, and having 2 Pokemon of the same species on a team isn't usually a good strategy for a battle. Takeshi.kun. Would you mind asking Lance to look after little Miyuki for us while we're all together? Takeshi nodded and said, I'll ask him when he gets over here, which shouldn't take more than 15 seconds based on the senjutsu energy I sense coming this way. He said, then disappeared into the ground, and 2 seconds later, came back holding Lance up by his ankle, and laughed. I lied. In fact, he was only 5 minutes away. I simply chose to make it take me 15 seconds to arrive here. Would you put me down, you goof? Lance sighed. Izumi has gone into labor, and she wants Suki, Hinata, and Naruto to be there to support her emotionally. He growled, obviously annoyed at his awkward friend's antics. Said friend simply grinned and, after picking Miyuki up in his other arm, and not putting Lance down, ran off in the cabin's direction, shouting back, last one there's a rotten execute. Everyone then went to Naruto's cabin, where Lance got his wish granted, on his head. It goes without saying that Takeshi would later receive a stern reprimand. A few minutes later, in the cabin, Hinata was standing beside Naruto, who was holding Izumi's hand while she labored to give birth in his human form, translating for her as Tsunade gave her instructions. Will mama be alright? Naruto.kun? Hinata nervously whispered, I remember in my last life that she died giving birth to Hannaby. Imoudo. Naruto gave her a warm smile and answered, Hinata-chan, I'm doing more than just holding her hand. Additionally, I'm giving her slivers of my life force, which are continuously healing her. This time, she will be alright, and you will have your mother and your younger sister to show your affection for. It hurts a lot, baby Hinata, but it's definitely going to be worth it, Izumi said, smiling at Hinata and Naruto in spite of her discomfort. She panted joyfully, then cried out again as Hannaby crowned, I'll let you hold her too, if you want. Hinata whimpered nervously, but Naruto held her closer, turning to give her a gentle kiss on the top of her head and whispering, it's going to be okay. Both of them will overcome this. When the baby girl was out a short time later, crying loudly and clearly wanting her mother, Naruto had the honor of cutting the umbilical cord, sealing it in a charm for safekeeping, and giving it to Izumi. He made a mental note to himself to find the charm that contained Hinata's charm as soon as possible and give it to her as well. As she held Hannaby, Izumi grinned. Naruto fervently hoped that this was the original's reincarnation because, after the death of the first Hinata, Hannaby had vowed never to fall in love because he believed that if Hinata couldn't have a happy ending, she didn't deserve one for herself. This time around, I'll make sure you all get to have happy endings, Naruto said to himself in a quiet voice, a determined expression on his face. This is what I missed in my previous life, isn't it? As Hannaby cuddled up to her warmth, Izumi smiled and asked no one in particular. Naruto carefully raised Hinata onto the bed, and Izumi and her 2 daughters grew closer as Naruto and the others looked on. Naruto hesitated, but after receiving puppy-dog looks from Izumi, Hinata, and, surprisingly, Hannaby, he gave in and climbed onto the bed in his child form, joining the happy family as they slept, thinking that perhaps, just perhaps, he might be able to share a happily ever after with them someday. Izumi saw a slightly pained look in Naruto's eyes and motioned for him to join them. After 11 years. Over the course of the previous 11 years, a number of things had changed. Hinata, Hannaby, Lance, and Takeshi had all grown a fair amount, the latter two having finished growing during this time, and the bond between Naruto and Hinata had remained strong. Suki had chosen to stay a Vulpix for the time being because she liked being held in her mother's arms, and all of the Vulpix that Naruto used to watch over had eventually grown into Ninetales as a result of exposure to his chakra over time, and they had all gone off to start their own families. No more Vulpix had been orphaned because Team Rocket had been disbanded. We're going with the Heart Gold, Soul Silver timeline for this, so they'll be back, and Naruto was now free to accompany Hinata on her journey, which they had decided to put off until she was 16. Unfortunately, a few months after Hinata turned 14, Naruto had begun getting nervous about something. Hinata would ask what was wrong, but Naruto would avoid the subject, and would just plain vanish via Hiashi when Hinata pressed for information. Eventually, he began avoiding her altogether, but left notes in places where she'd find them, telling her that he missed being around her. The handwriting over the few months before Hinata's 16th birthday had started becoming more and more erratic, until 3 days before the special day, when the letters stopped coming entirely. This led Hinata and the others to believe that Naruto was either ill or in physical pain. Perhaps both. Finally, the night before Hinata's birthday came, and it was time for them to get ready to head to a Pokemon League function, so that Lance and Takeshi could officially take her on as their shared apprentice. However, when Hinata went to Naruto's room to get him, she found the place to be a horrible mess, indicating something had happened. The window had been left open, and Hinata didn't see any footprints in the snow, meaning he'd been gone for a while. She had to tell the others. Minutes after Hinata's discovery, in the foyer. "He's not there," was the simultaneous reaction when Hinata went to get Naruto and explained why he hadn't accompanied her. Hinata nodded. The window was open and the room was a complete mess, but there were no footprints in the snow, so he must have been gone for a long time. "Please, help me find him." She whimpered, then broke down in tears, saying, "I knew I should have checked on him earlier." Gritting her teeth, Hannaby said, "Nichan, we'll find him." Naruto. "Nichan has a lot to explain about bringing you to tears." Takeshi and Lance nodded, and they started to gather senjutsu energy, hoping Naruto was close enough for them to sense, after she yelled. Both Takeshi and Lance's eyes widened in a matter of seconds, their faces displaying shock. "Crud. He is so full of energy." Takeshi. "Take Suki and Hinata to him using your underground fish technique, and then take him to the Viridian City Pokemon Center in the same manner. Before I take Izumi, Hannaby, and Pikachu there on Ryukage's, Lance's return, I'll give Gary a call and tell him to inform the others that we must have the event there. We must act quickly." Lance gave the group an order. "What's wrong with Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked, her eyes widening. "I don't know exactly what it is, but he's hurt and not doing too well," she said anxiously, to which Takeshi shook his head in response. "Hurry up and let's go." Everyone then started to move in the hopes of arriving at their destinations in time. After a few minutes, far out in the woods that encircle the cabin. The snowy weather wasn't helping either, and Naruto was feeling like shit, panting heavily, and experiencing terrible pain all over his body. "Gosh." He moaned, then attempted to get back up. He had been immobile for more than 3 hours after falling, and the snow was beginning to cover his body. Unfortunately, because his powers were being used exclusively to keep him alive and conscious, he had developed a terrible fever, which had never happened to him in his life. It was terrible, and it only made the problems already plaguing his body worse. "Perhaps I should give up. After all, only fairy tales have happy endings," he told himself as he went unconscious. But rather than finding tranquility, a blow to the head roused him. "Baka, do you not recall? The happy ending of Tales of a Gutsy Ninja wasn't a fairy tale. Furthermore, this is by no means the conclusion of the tale of Uzumaki Naruto." Jiraiya's voice, clearly irritated, yelled, "Get up, Gaki. A quitter wasn't trained by me. We all trusted you with our will of fire. In addition, if you passed away, what do you think would happen to Hinata?" In contrast, he thought of Hinata weeping, growing up alone, and finally giving up and killing herself. "What do you think would happen if you lived through this? She won't be upset with you because of your current situation. You are well aware that she would sympathize with your predicament, assist you in resolving it, and then live contentedly with you by her side. Why are you so unyielding?" Jiraiya reprimanded, bringing to mind pictures of Naruto and Hinata living a happy life together, raising a family, and finally finding peace at the end of the world, with their bodies preserved in a loving embrace forevermore and their spirits in heaven. "Don't blame me, Arrow. Senin," Naruto sighed. He muttered, "I got my stubbornness from my mom," then laughed a little before declaring, "All right, you win. I'll continue." Before returning to reality, Naruto opened his eyes and saw all of his friends who had passed away grinning at him. "I'll see you all again when time ends," he said. "Datbeo, I swear." He uttered a silent cry before actually opening his eyes this time. At the Pokemon Center later on. Slowly, with only mild pain, Naruto woke up, noticing a light above him and the scent of medicine in the room. He soon heard voices and knew they were those of Hinata and Nurse Joy. "Is he in heat?" With a startled tone, Hinata inquired. "With the information you provided, that's the only conclusion I could reach. It appears that he has been acting in this manner for a year or more. Given that he is unmistakably male, it was brought on by the menstrual cycle of an organism that could conceive. I believe he is acting this way because of your cycle. I believe that's why he has been avoiding you. He didn't want to hurt you. But as of a few months ago, you are in good enough health to engage in such activities and give birth. Even though you are not of legal age, you have stated that you have desired that type of relationship with him, and this is an emergency. You should do it as soon as he wakes up because the painkillers won't last more than a few hours." After saying, "Try to make it fun, for both of your sakes," Nurse Joy left. Naruto heard the room's door close, and he could now feel that it was just him and Hinata in the space. With a sigh, Hinata took a seat beside Naruto on the hospital bed and asked, "Are you feeling better now, Naruto-kun?" She asked softly, shifting so that she was staring him in the eyes. Naruto was nearly devastated by her expression. It seemed as though she had been crying for at least an hour, and her tears had not yet dried. "I feel much better than I did before, but I think the painkillers are the cause of that. We can find another way to solve this." Naruto began. but Hinata interrupted him by putting her arms around him. I'll be fine for at least a few hours, Naruto said. Why do you act in this way? Why do you act in this way, pushing everyone away from you? You give up your health too easily, she said, crying against Naruto's shoulder. Let me take care of this. Not that I didn't want something like that myself. With a sigh, Naruto said, you understand that if you carry out this plan, you'll become immortal like me and outlive almost everyone you encounter, with the exception of our kids and me? Do you really want to live that way? In the hopes that Hinata would give her options careful thought, he asked. Hinata grinned and said, I've known that for a while. However, you're already going through the same thing, by yourself. She explained, then begged, please, Naruto-kun, just make me yours to keep. If I join you in being immortal, you won't have to be alone anymore, and I'll always have you with me, and our babies, too. I'll try my hardest to make it fantastic for you. With a kind grin, Naruto said, who am I to say no if you're that certain? After saying that, he transformed into Hanyu and passionately kissed her.
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.